I used to think I had a discipline problem, so I bought books about productivity. I watched videos about time management. I made to-do lists. I deleted apps. I tried to quit my phone. And every time I started something new, I started with so much energy, so much hope, so much determination. But every time I failed, I blamed myself. I told myself I was weak, lazy, not serious enough. Then I promised to try harder, start again, fall off again, feel guilty again. For years, I thought the problem was me. But now, I think the problem was the way I was trying to change. I kept trying to force myself to go against my own nature. And anything that keeps going against human nature will eventually break. Think about the things you do every day. Walking, eating, opening a door, brushing your teeth, sitting down. You do not need a huge amount of discipline to do those things. You simply do them because they are part of the flow of your life. But the moment your mind hears, "I have to do this," something inside you starts resisting. Even a simple action begins to feel heavy. That is what self-discipline often does. It turns ordinary actions into battles. And maybe that is why so many people give up. Not because they are weak, but because they are tired from fighting themselves. Human beings naturally choose the path that uses the least energy. Not because we are bad, not because we are lazy, but because the body is designed to survive. We prefer comfort. We prefer what feels easy. We prefer the path that does not demand too much from us. So instead of asking, "How can I force myself harder?" maybe the better question is, "How can I make the better choice easier to reach?" I have a story about this that still makes me laugh. When I first started working, I bought a treadmill. I was so determined. I told myself I would exercise every day. I placed it neatly in the corner of the room, clean, organized, exactly where it was supposed to be. And then I barely used it. For months, it just stayed there because it blended into the room. My eyes passed over it every day, and my brain ignored it. Then one day, while moving things around, I placed it in the middle of the path I usually walked through to sit on the couch at night. Now, every time I wanted to sit down, I had to step over the treadmill. It was annoying. Not painful, not dramatic, just slightly inconvenient. But that tiny inconvenience changed everything. At first, I stepped onto it for a few seconds. Then I walked for a few minutes while watching something. Then a few minutes became longer. And eventually, walking became part of my evening. I did not force myself to become disciplined. I did not become a new person overnight. I simply made the better choice harder to ignore, and that little bit of friction pulled me forward. I think this applies to many things. If you want to read more, do not begin by forcing yourself to finish a book. Just put the book somewhere your hand will naturally touch it. On your pillow, on the couch, near your bag, on your desk. Do not hide it neatly on a shelf, because when something is too perfectly arranged, the brain stops noticing it. Let the book interrupt you a little. One day, you may touch it. Open one page. Read a little. And that is still a beginning. Sometimes change begins with contact, not commitment. There is another strange thing about the mind. If someone tells you, "Do not think about a cat wearing sunglasses," what happens? You immediately think about it. That is why forbidding yourself from doing something often makes the desire stronger. The brain keeps checking whether you are still not thinking about it. And the act of checking makes you think about it even more. I have seen this with my phone. Whenever I told myself, "Do not touch your phone," I wanted to touch it even more. The phone became louder in my mind, not because I needed it, but because I was fighting it. So maybe the answer is not always more control. Maybe it is better design. Put the phone in another room. Put the book closer. Put your walking shoes near the door. Put a glass of water where your hand will find it. You do not always need a stronger mind. Sometimes you just need a better setup. For a long time, I planned everything too tightly. I wanted the perfect time, the quiet room, the right mood, the right version of myself. But real life almost never gives us the perfect scene. Someone will invite you to eat out right when you are trying to eat healthier. A good movie will appear right when you planned to sleep early. A stressful day will interrupt your routine. And that does not mean you failed. One messy day does not cancel the whole process. Progress can be uneven, interrupted, awkward, a little ugly, and still be real progress. I think many people are not stuck because they lack willpower. They are stuck because they believe they are the kind of person who cannot change. And then, without realizing it, they collect evidence to prove that story true. But people are not as fixed as we think. We are shaped by what we repeat, by what we touch every day, by what we place around us, by the small frictions we allow, by the environments we build. So not forcing yourself does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming careless. It means you stop using pain as the only path to growth. It means you stop punishing yourself every time you fall out of rhythm. Make the good things easier to touch. Make the harmful things a little harder to reach. Let small moments pull you forward. Let imperfect attempts count. You do not need one perfect leap. Sometimes, all you need is a tiny inconvenience placed in the right direction. A book on the pillow. A pair of shoes by the door. A phone in another room. A treadmill in the middle of the path. Not because you are weak, but because you are human. And maybe change does not begin when you finally become disciplined enough. Maybe it begins when you stop fighting yourself and start designing a life where the person you want to become is simply easier to meet.